Welcome to Just Login's webinar series, and today we're going to talk about how to manage employee performance during the COVID-19. So thanks everyone for joining me today. My name is Chan Chao Hao. I'm the COO for Just Login. Today we have close to more 150 attendees for this event. It's quite an exciting one for us. And joining me later for the presentation will be Raj from Synergita. Right, so I hope today we should be able to provide you with some insights on what you can do with managing employees, as well as how to manage the performance during this time when everyone's kind of working from home. Right, so I think everyone by now will probably be in this situation where you're kind of forced to, pretty much the whole company is being forced to work from home in such a COVID-19 situation. I mean, this has never been done before. This is the first time in a lot of people's working history. For us, personally, I have worked from home from a few series of other prior experience with other international companies where I was probably the only individual in the Singapore office. So this kind of experience is something that I personally went through myself. But nevertheless, this time for me is to manage the whole workforce, like 50 of us, 50 to 70 of us from a work from home situation. This is probably the first for us. So it's quite the challenges that you typically might face when you start having a work from home situation, a remote working situation, especially this kind of COVID-19 situation, right? And you have the best thing is how do you keep the performance of the company still as best as you can while everyone is so far away from each other. Now, one of the challenges that you probably face is that there's no visibility of the workforce. Or the workforce are scattered all around in their homes and so forth. It's not like the previous times where everyone is in one's office. You always know who to call to, who to talk to, who to gather quickly for meetings. You can't see that now. How do you manage that? Another challenge that companies will probably face is that if you're used to mostly face-to-face meetings, face-to-face interaction, suddenly this move from home situation forces you to go online to do this interaction, which is not a very natural human behavior. So I would say that a lot of workforce might not be comfortable with such engagement. And lastly, employees at this kind of situation when there's a crisis going on, everyone will be a bit more lost. There used to be a regular discussions, regular meetings, chit chats, water cooler chats. Now suddenly everyone's working from home, and you can't find that have the proper. If you don't build a proper momentum or proper way to guide these employees, you find that all your staff will start working in their own ways, and you're not even exactly sure if you're able to support the company's activity during such a crisis. So let's talk about the first challenge of working with the visibility of workforce in such a case. How to keep the performance high in your company. I mean, one thing that we realize is that for the first thing you need to get certain things right is that time tracking and collaboration tools in such a time is actually most important, because you need to get the tools in place so that everyone is able to be accountable for the time, right? Generally speaking, if you're working from home, chances are what management will always be afraid of is people are abusing this work from home situation, right? Especially you got a few staff, you got 10, 20 staff or a few hundred staff. You find that it's very difficult to make sure that everyone is actively working what they're supposed to be doing. Unlike in an office floor where you can see almost everybody working, putting heads down, working on the computers. But this kind of things is very highly, the more higher chance of abuse. So for us, for Just Login, we always had a team that's working remotely, which is like based in Philippines or based in Malaysia or based in Myanmar. We always had a team that was remotely. And how do we manage them most of the time is that we use a few time tracking tools, like such as HubStuff or our Just Clock, which is our time and attendance tracking system, to make sure that at least they're accountable for their time. And HubStuff is a good one, which allows us to track whether or not they're active on the computer. How many they take screenshots every 30 seconds of what the activity is. So these are some of the tools that you can use. You can use a lot of Microsoft Teams to get together to collaborate on projects and discussions. these are all tools that becomes more critical, especially how to keep your performance high in this kind of situation. So one of the things that, I mean, if that you might want to consider, because I understand that some of you might not be looking at this at the first time, is that how do you make sure that at least employees are kind of reporting to work and checking out work? So for us in Just Login, we actually offer a solution to help you do that, which for us, all it takes is a mobile device, install an app on your phone. It allows you to actually do clock in and clock outs on the phone. And thing is, we also do AI recognition on the face. So if there's AI recognition on the face, so to make sure that the same person who clocks in is exactly the same person who clocks out, and just to make sure that no one's abusing it. We also use this app to keep track of temperature reading. So some places or some employees might enforce this. You need to make sure that you have a proper temperature reading, 36 degrees. We can put that in the remarks page so that every time when they clock in or clock out, they need to put in the temperature reading as well. In our app, we also provide geofencing so that we can limit where you're supposed to clock in. So if a restriction is that the employee must clock in from their house, we can geofence the house so that the person only can clock in when he's within the house, vicinity of the house. He cannot be outside, he cannot be anywhere. So when let's say the government needs to do any contact tracing, needs to make your account trace the movement of employees, all this information is already captured on our system. And if you're doing shift-based work, our mobile device application allows you to look at the shifts. Your employees will be able to check their shifts, maybe especially now when you're doing maybe staggered working hours. Who knows, you're providing customer support, you might have staggered working hours. So you can assign shifts on your mobile device. Everyone can log in and check on those. So, and this is all handy on a mobile device. You can't get any simpler than that. So we have kind of made this experience quite easy for employees to use. Now, one of the things about this work from home arrangement is that you're going to lose a lot of face-to-face meetings. And I think one of the challenges is that when you realize, based on some research by UCLA, a professor from UCLA, you find that 55% of communication cues are lost because of no face-to-face interaction, especially the body language. So my salespeople tend to come to me and say, hey, if I don't speak to my client, I will not be able to assess whether he's going to be a buyer or not, he's going to make a decision or not. So this face-to-face arrangement, you takes out 50% of that. So which makes it more important to have more frequent interactions with employees or with a staff, just to keep making sure that you can make up for the 55% of the interaction that you miss through a face-to-face meeting. So for us, we have always had work from home arrangement for our team. So we have always tried to look into making sure that the employees' performance is up to the mark. They're delivering what they should be delivering. We're capturing all the details, all the KPIs, and making sure they're delivering on those. So how do we do that to make sure everyone is always constantly kicking the ball forward? Is we do a few things. One of it that we do is that we have a daily 15 minutes, what we call scrum calls with the team. So this 15-minute scrum calls with the team is actually a check-in point of the day, especially when you're doing this work from home arrangement. We call in every time at 9 a.m. in the morning. Maybe your team is 10 people, and we'll ask a few questions. What did you do yesterday? What are you planning to do today? Any issues they want to discuss separately after this call? And we do this every day so that it makes you go through a habit of practicing to have a pulse on the business. That's one. Second thing, it makes your employee think through what I'm supposed to do for the rest of the day. What are my to-do list? So it makes everyone more accountable for their time. The second thing that you need to look at is to make sure that during this time when everyone's scattered around, set expectations expectations right up. Set their goals properly. Tell them during this time we're supposed to achieve this. Maybe you need to make 10 phone calls for salespeople every day. Make sure those are recorded down. Or maybe set expectations that, we need to minimize, increase our collections, whatever. So these need to be set up front. I'll expect you to do this to achieve those numbers. And you need to schedule very regular one-on-ones. It's probably more regular than you would do on in a real non-COVID situation. You probably have to do it like almost every week if we are not really doing that. Maybe every 2 or 3 days, just to make sure that to do a check-in to make sure that everyone is constantly moving ahead with the job they're supposed to do. And in this kind of situation, also give more constant feedback. What are you doing? You're doing well. Let people know that they are they're being valued as well as they're being engaged. And that's the only way to keep the momentum going. And constantly ask for status updates. What's happening with this? What's happening with that thing? So what gets measured gets done, as people used to say. This is the time to do it, and this is the time to do it rigorously. Okay. And lastly, you have to trust your employees. You trust that you made the right decision hiring your team. Make sure they deliver what they can deliver at this time of crisis, at this kind of time. That's the only way to kind of keep the performance up, especially when in a work arrangement. So lastly, the point is that employees need a lot of direction and guidance. And I think this is a perfect time for us to segue into how do you do that? How do you use a performance management tool to help you do that at this point in time? Okay, so we'll like to run a random poll now for everyone. My colleague will probably put up a poll. So if you could kindly answer that question. Okay, so everyone's put their answers. I think my colleague might be able to show some results.
Hi, Chahal. The results of the poll is that 40% of them are currently already on a solution, and 60% are not yet on a solution.
So I guess it's in a certain way, everyone is already using some form of solution. But if those that might be looking at it, this will be a time for you to reevaluate and to look at how do you effectively use this solution during such a time. With this, I'd like to introduce my next speaker, Raj, who's a product manager from Synergita. He will be presenting a little bit about his take on this situation on performance management during such a crisis. I'll hand over to Raj.
Thank you, Sean. Hi all, this is Raj. To start with, Synergita is a continuous feedback-based employee performance management, engagement, and development software, which is very, very simple and easy to use as well as configure. And with our system, you can perform any kind of employee performance evaluation methodologies like balanced scorecard, OKR, SMART goals, and other models. You will see the major features that we have, especially the ones which are very much relevant in this kind of remote working environment where everybody is stuck at home or safe at home, I would rather say safe at home with the breaker as such. So let's see, as a first step on the goal setting dimension, this is going to be very, very helpful for the employee, whereby the organization or the manager clearly sets up the expectations to the employee. This quarter or month or this period, it can be anything. So you can set the expectations to the employee, stating that these are your targets with these, in these goals. You have to achieve these many number of units. It can be a product wise, it can be a service line, it can be anything, be it any department, be it a leadership team or a junior staff. Let us set the expectations during the year beginning time or as per your own timelines. If you want to set it up on a quarterly basis, yes, you can do that, or a monthly or half yearly. System is very, very flexible, and you can ensure that the expectations are set for the employees. Okay, if I set the expectations, what exactly I get out of that? As you see in the research, so this is the statistics that we have got around 15% of improvement in the employee's performance when the expectations are set clearly. Once the employee has the clarity on what exactly he is supposed to deliver, on what dimension, and what is the kind of target and the timeline, he can plan himself, and along with that, he can foresee the entire year on how he can segment the targets and what are the required factors from his department level or inter departments, or as an organization, what are the factors that he needs so that the management can support the employee to achieve those targets. So goal setting is pretty much important for any organization. So do we have any library mechanism? Can the employee set the goals, or can we give it to the manager? Again, this depends on your culture as such, and then your line of business and the way you want to run the business as such. The best practice will be on the logical side of it, setting the goals and then having discussion with the employee on how this can be achieved, and it'll be a meaningful discussion how we can work together rather than as a supervisor, as a partner with you. Suppose I'm the manager and you are the employee, how can we work together and ensure that the department level or employee level achievements are made and the organization as such grows. So moving on to the further dimension on the goals management engine that we have enabled something called SMART goals. As I mentioned earlier, we can have any kind of performance evaluation models like balanced scorecard, or the recent one called as objective and key results, OKR, or SMART goals, key result areas and key performance indicators. We can have any of these models enabled in the system. So now let us talk about this SMART goal. What is a SMART goal? In what way it is going to be helpful for my organization, especially at this point of time, our employees are mostly working from their home or say different locations, not from the office, right? So in this kind of environment, goals which are very specific, measurable, attainable, we cannot have some goals which are beyond the reach, which are impractical. Let us be fair enough in ensuring that we have practically workable goals, and which are relevant to the business, current and expected ones, and which are timed. When I say timed, you can time the goals in line with the market, in line with internal vision, and you can do that. Our system provides you a goals management engine to enable this particular SMART goal portion. And as a user, you can configure your own goal. You either as an employee or as a manager, you can configure the goal in the kind of screen that you are seeing now. It's all very, very simple and easy to understand. And you fill up your SMART goal name, the description on what is this goal all about. And if you have any targets there, yes, please fill up the number and then the date controls. And once you submit, based on your company's internal performance management process, system will automatically move this to the next level. It can be a supervisor, and from the supervisor, once he finishes, it can be routed through a department head, or it can be to the HOD, business unit head, or the human resource administrator. So based on the process that you have, the system can be very, very easily configured. So that's about the goals achievement part. And through our mobile application, wherever you are, you can do this update using the mobile application on maybe a weekly basis or a monthly basis, fortnightly. However you wanted to update the system, you can do that at ease. So using the mobile application, the sales representatives, for example, they'll be in the field most of the times on a general note, right? So they can update the, say for example, how many deals have been closed in this month. So this update can be made through the mobile application and number of visits made and other things. So you can do all these things using the mobile application, which is very, very simple. And it also helps you to track your team's performance. How are they progressing and what are their achievements? And it also comes up with dashboards as well as transactional reports. It's all very simple, available in your palm, as simple as that. And another interesting factor that we have today is the continuous engagement platform. Especially in this kind of environment where the employee is at home or in other places than the offices, where he feels the disconnection. The employee is isolated. On a regular day, he will be at office where he can catch up with his team members and other colleagues. And it can be for a cup of coffee, can be for official or unofficial chat, whatever it is. It's all personal or human touch is there, which is missing today. Especially in this kind of environment, how can we ensure that employee doesn't feel the loss of the personal touch and still he's connected to the team members and still he's on his track? Let's talk about the continuous engagement platform that we have, which will be very much relevant and useful here. It can be used for continuous interaction on goals. Maybe the manager and the team member, they can catch up through a Zoom-in discussion or a telecon where they can talk about individual goal-wise feedback. What is the plus and minus of that particular goal, the current status and support required, and the support that can be provided by the management. All these things can be discussed. And the notes can be noted down in the system on an individual goal-wise, on a periodical-wise. And you can figure out the differences between last month feedback and this month feedback for that particular goal. And you can very clearly track the status. And this really helps you to remove the recency effect. You don't have to remember anything. And you can also use this platform to connect to your annual or half-yearly reviews. And moving on to the next item, which is rewards and recognition. How can I improve my team's morale or motivation as well as engagement level at this point of time? It is time for, in fact, redefining goals as well as how to. How do I measure my productivity? How do I measure my team's achievement level? Before the COVID situation, we had, for example, target of say 10 units. Am I going to retain the same target today? Am I going to reduce it? So in what way will I be helping my employee in line with the global organizations? As we see, there are a good number of organizations like Target Corp, who is really helping the employees by administering a day, center. It will be like a care center for the employees' family members. The employee can leave his family member in the care center, and he's comfortable that his family is safe and taken care, and he'll be putting up his best efforts in the job, right? So that kind of provisioning are provided today, and organizations like Walmart are providing medical and monetary benefits. They are extending these kind of benefits to the employees. So what we can do as an organizations with regard to different, in the different industries, you can have industry-based reward, or you can enable any kind of spot awards or recognize your employee for, with any unique appreciation. And you can see on the left side, you see the system's screenshot. And let us remember, this is quite configurable. You can have any kind of new continuous engagement category here. And of course, it's the time for sharpening the sword. Though overall we are going slow now, and this is the time for catching up with the development and learning dimensions. What are the areas do I need to get trained and my team members need to get trained? Do you have the provisioning for getting the online training options? Yes, our system can help you out with that. And you can also further add to the engagement initiatives as per your own company policy or process. We can configure new initiatives. Pretty recently, we have come up with a new initiative called Coffee with Colleagues, where we are enabling through Zoom, we are recommending a discussion, mostly video based discussion, so that the employees in a team or a department, they can catch up, discuss on official and non-official transactions. They can learn from each other, share their inputs and knowledge, and this can very well help in balancing their personal lives as well. So any action item or anything general learning that can be posted in this continuous engagement platform in a separate manner. And all these sections, whatever you see on the left side, appreciation, area of improvement, award, etc., they come up with visibility controls. Whatever you want to show in public, for example, award that can be displayed in public so that everybody in the organization, they can see and then they can extend greetings among the peers. And so that's about it with regard to the continuous engagement platform. As mentioned earlier, this can be linked to the final review time. You don't have to remember anything. With this continuous engagement or feedback approach on individual goals, you can predict the results. You can do even mid-flight corrections. Suppose you want to do some goal adjustments, you can do that. It is that much effective and powerful. Moving on to the next activity, it's time for a poll. What are the best practices you follow in your organization to increase employee engagement? Here we have the results. Wow. Instant appreciation by managers and peers. It's really great. Around 80% have chosen that. And customized employee development initiatives. This is really fantastic. When you have these custom inputs, it will be much more relevant to the organization. So let's move on. Our next activity or item in the bucket is culture score, in the especially in the current situation. We have got something called as culture score in our mobile application, which will be very much useful. Time and again, I insist on the mobile application because it will be saving a lot of time and you can do things on the go, and especially in the kind of situation we are in now. And let us also talk about some gamification. We also have the gamification in our continuous engagement platform. And here also we have applied the same technique. So it's going to be a gamified tool for assessing the employees' compliance level on the organization's core values. Every organization and they have their own core values, whether published or unpublished. And when you have published core values, you can measure how best or how far your employees reflect upon those values. To what extent they comply with those values. It can be a kind of a mobile application based gamified survey where you can have either anonymous or with the exact name. You can have this, the respondent can respond to these questions, and these questions are based on the organizational values, the core values that you respect. It is just like a normal smiley kind of rating scale, which will be really appealing, especially to the millennials. And you see over there, which from very poor to excellent. So that is another interesting factor that we have, which is quite, recently picking up. And other interesting factor is e-communication. Many organizations, they find the organization communication tool, primarily they will use Office 365. So that's how it goes. And in order to figure out the best timing and to shoot out those organizational announcements, number one. And then mostly when they try to figure out or narrow down the recipients, they find huge amount of challenges in cutting down or narrowing down, or mostly they would have to turn back to the internal IT team, right? So in order to eliminate all those factors, number one, and you can also figure out with the help of our dashboards here, you can also figure out the best timing for publishing these kind of official announcements. So it is a centralized corporate communication tool from where you can publish any organizational announcements, and you can also narrow down or broaden your recipients list. For example, you can focus on a particular location or designation. Only for all managers, this particular email communication will go, right? Such kind of filtering options are available. And we also have published a good number of dashboards here in the system. So it really helps you to figure out the email engagement level of your employees. How many employees do read these emails? How many have received the email? How many do read these emails? And the dashboard will give you information on these areas, using which you can find out the best timing of your organization to send out these announcements. And moving on to the review side of it, yes, this is the regular performance review. You can conduct this on a quarterly or half-yearly or annual, however you wanted to do. And our system will help you out with any kind of process. And we have got a very, very simple and easy mechanism to configure the feedback providers. Whether you wanted to do it between employee and the manager, you want to add up a second level manager or skip level manager, or you wanted to perform it for even gig workers, you can do that. Whether it is a permanent employee or gig workers, you can include or separate them with the different processes. We help you to do that. All managers, you can have process A for performance evaluation review, and for employee type B, you can have different performance review type. It is up to you to decide on that. And that's how the screen will look like, where we see employees feedback. Ravi Vyas is the employee, the self. He has provided his qualitative feedback. On the right side, he has used the quantitative rating scale. Here it is 4-point rating scale. So that's how the feedback can be displayed in the system. That's our feedback area, which is very, very simple and very easy. You can do this. Since this is a cloud-based system and hosted in Amazon Web Services, you can use this system access from anywhere, anytime on the go. As I mentioned earlier, we also have the mobile application. It helps you to provide the performance feedback from anywhere. That's about the overall review. And moving on to the dashboards and reports. We have got over, say, 30 dashboards and reports. And we also have good number of widgets. We can enable these widgets or dashboards to any required user. It can be a manager or a department head or even the employee. For example, what are the training that I'm going to take up in this period? I can see my own widget on that, my training. This will be really helpful. Similarly, you have got more number of dashboards and analytical reports, which will be really useful, providing you the best insights on, for example, perception gap. How do I see myself is something different from how does my manager look at me, right? I may rate myself as the best employee in the organization, whereas my manager can rate me as a level 4 and not 5. So that perception gap can be obtained, which will be a base for performance discussions. And on top left, we have something interesting dashboard or report called 9-box analysis, where employees are bucketed in different performance buckets. You can figure out who has the good, who is the best in terms of performance, but they may not have the required competencies, the skills otherwise, or who are fantastic in my organization with the best competencies, but lacking in terms of the performance, right? So with the help of these inputs, you can figure out how can I improvise these employees? How can I make them as star employees? And for star employees, how can I plan for their retention? And same way, we have got other interesting reports like strengths and weakness report and overall goal status for self or the team. And you can also compare among the quarters and among the business units for that matter. So that's about it. Over to you, Chan.
Okay, thank you, Raj, for that presentation. So I thought it would be good to share the fact that Synergita is actually a technology partner of ours. And we have, over the last 2 months, been working on an integration with Synergita. So what that means is that our application in a few weeks' time will be able to talk to each other. So for example, if you create a user within Just Login, the same user will also be reflected in Synergita for you to do your performance appraisal. So if you are interested to, we'll be looking at further integrations to make this partnership a little bit more powerful. So I mean, this is our first step, or just to integrate the memberships between both our systems. So just to quickly announce to everyone else as well, next week, same time, around 3 o'clock, we'll be doing another webinar. Okay, this time will be done with another partner of ours, Reap, who they are in the credit card payment systems, but they will be able to explain how their application will be able to help you manage things like your payroll and your cash flow during this kind of COVID-19 situation. I mean, if you need some short-term assistance in paying your employees during this crunch time, please join us for the next webinar next Thursday at 3 p.m. Okay, so I just put it up there. You can sign up, the URL at the bottom, justlogin.com, business continuity. Okay, with this, I'd like to open up the floor to some Q&A. Feel free to go through the Q&A, and me and Raj will see what we can do that to answer those questions.
Thank you, John, on pointing out the integration which is coming up in a short time. And this powerful integration will really help the user to use a singular login experience to reach or to log in a singular manner, which means I don't have to remember 2 user ID and passwords. I will use only one single user ID and password that will take me to Just Login system, from where I will navigate to the performance module. So for the user, it is a single system.
Okay, there is a Q&A box. I'll just bring out the Q&A box. Organization. Okay, so I see a question here.
The question on performance linking to staff salary scales and salary. Again, we can do that. We have to internally do some analysis, and we can do that. There are organizations which have really done this. For example, in many of the public sector organizations, we see this with the designation and role level. You can see from there what kind of hike can be expected Even that, they go to the extent of publishing in the newspaper during the recruitment time. So this is, I mean, quite possible. As far as Synergita is concerned, it's a deep dive PMS solution, performance management system, that helps you for goals management and performance reviews, including continuous engagement as well as continuous feedback. Here, we can provide the recommendation. Suppose you want to, suppose an employee scores anything between say 4.5 to 5 in the performance review, he is eligible for say X number of hike. This kind of recommendation at an organizational level, we can enable this in the system. This is possible in the system.
So there's a gentleman who asked about the need to monitor employees. Might it lead to them feeling that they're not trusted by the management? How they can mitigate this feeling? So what happens here is that, you know, in this kind of situation, there is no right or wrong answer. I think in the end, it's just about having the trust of management that we're not going to use the system to penalize you. Keeping track of time is twofold, right? I mean, one way is like companies can look at tracking time and penalize the company. On the other hand, it could be used a way to reward the company or to understand that, look, this would be a form of justification of your load. Just give you an example. Let's say if this person is working overtime consistently for like last 5 months or last 5 days, it would be a very good justification to tell your boss, look, I've been clocking overtime and this is concrete proof that I have too much work. I cannot cope. I need assistance. So when it comes to going back to management to justify for more help or more assistance in certain areas, you as an employee, you will have the right tangible tool. And there's a point of discussion for that. So I think in the end of it all, it's a matter of making sure that the trust is there on both sides, and then having the tools to assist the discussion and not to use it as a way to penalize or to discredit employees. I think if employees can find a balance, then yes, time tracking tools should be effective. Details of apps and costs for us, there's no, I mean, this one depends on your setup, your organization setup. We'll be gladly happy to reach out after this event to speak to you. Make sure your details are there. We'll definitely call you down to have a discussion on what those costs might be like. We'd like to have them too. Okay, I'm not sure what that means. Can the performance link to salary and skill? I think Raj has answered that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And there is another interesting question on the matrix reporting structure. Yes, Synergita helps you to, process the employee reporting structure in a couple of dimensions. One is the normal reporting structure. Another one is a matrix reporting structure. This will be really helpful in a kind of situation wherein one employee reports to more than one supervisor. We in fact go to one step further or one step deeper, I can say. For example, in your goal sheet, you have 5 goals. You may have 3 goals pertaining to a particular manager, and for remaining 2 goals, you'll be reporting for another manager. This is quite possible. Not only to the matrix reporting level, we go one step further, whereby a goal can be tagged to a particular manager. He'll be the owner to change any dimensions of the goal, like target or timelines, or any kind of status tracking, or even feedback. During feedback time, only that particular goal will be going to the manager who is the owner of the goal. So out of the 5 goals that you have, 3 goes to manager A and remaining 2 go to manager B. So that's how the matrix reporting structure is processed in the system.
Okay, the SME Go Digital Program, that's something to do with the grants in place. There are a couple of grants that we already have in place that I think depends on size, same thing, depends on size of organization and stuff. We actually can have a separate discussion on this. Please make sure your details are there and we'll get back to you, all right, regarding grant. So these are all possible discussions that we can talk about. Okay, so yes, yes, it's possible. There are grants out there available. We can explore PSG and all that. It could be subsidized. So, if anybody has any other questions, no other question. That's good. And if that's the case, I'd like to thank everybody for this opportunity to speak to everyone in such a format. I hope today's discussion has been useful. Please join us again next week. We'll be looking at the cash flow and how some solution like our business partners REIT has a solution for that, especially dealing with cash flow in this kind of situation for salaries, payments, and so forth. And we'll explain about integration with them too. So for that, I like to thank everyone this afternoon for your time. Thank you, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Raj. Thank you, everyone.